All right. Next up, Jets at Raiders. Let's start with the quarterback situation, I guess we'll call it. The quarterbacks, if you want to call them those. I don't know what else we can refer to them as, but
Yeah,
sixth worst matchup for Jimmy G. 11th worst matchup for Zach Wilson. I'm afraid to see where I have these two, but it's not going to be high. It is Zach Wilson is 27th. I have him behind both potential Falcons quarterbacks, one of whom is not going to start. He is behind both. Jimmy G, I feel like he should be higher on here.
So Jimmy G's not playing. It's Aiden O'Connell. He's the starter.
Oh, okay, that's why. I'm looking for Jimmy G. You're right. It's Aiden
I was
O'Connell,
like,
who's one after. I have these guys as 27, 28. Thank you. That makes more sense.
I was like, wait, is there news or something I missed? I was like,
No. So there's what, 4 teams on bye? So these two are literally the last two quarterbacks I have in my rankings of the starters. But I'm actually going to have to move Ritter down. So these guys will actually be my last two because I don't have a Giants quarterback listed. Oh, no, sorry. I don't have a Cardinals quarterback listed because I was waiting to see. So I'm going to have to bump Kyler up. So these two are now 27 and 28. The last two quarterbacks.
They're so bad. Exactly. Okay, Zach Wilson's atrocious, and his situation's even worse because that line is decrepit. So it's the worst kind of situation for a quarterback to be in where really doesn't have any skilled players besides Garrett Wilson. Like those wide receivers kind of suck. Tight end's not good. Bad offensive line, and you have a quarterback who makes terrible decisions. Like that's just the worst possible situation for a quarterback to succeed in. So yeah, Zach Wilson's terrible. Somebody wanted a second round pick for him. Like they were like, hey, come get Zach Wilson for a second. I go, are you insane?
How did
There's
Jimmy
no way to
get
world
hurt
pay a
again?
second round
He
pick for
played
Zach
last
Wilson.
week. Oh, he didn't get hurt. Okay. I was going to say he played in week 8, didn't he? Yeah, he did. He lost his job. Okay, I forgot
they fired
that.
the coach.
Jimmy has been demoted. He didn't lose it, or he didn't get hurt. He's just worse than Aiden O'Connell. That tells you all you need to know.
Oh, we got a comment. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up.
Okay.
What is this?
Chargers average giving up about 68 yards in game. I don't think they've given up more than one TD on the year. Only tight end who did good versus them was Kelsey and the Chiefs, and the numbers are inflated. Let me look. What are we talking tight end here for the Chargers?
Yeah, Laporta's really good. So, you know, like you kind of just got to
bet. Okay. Yeah, I'm betting on Laporta as the talent. The matchup is mediocre. Yeah. They give up the 16th most fantasy points. They are far worse in real life defense than they are for fantasy, at least to the tight end position. So, like I said, 16th best matchup, but it doesn't. The matchup's not swaying me either way. It's just the middle of the pack. But it's good enough with his talent. It's the combination of Laporta's one of the better tight ends with one of the better matchups. And, you know, with Kelsey out, Andrews has the worst matchup. Engram second worst. And Njoku third worst. Hawkinson 11th worst. Pitts 7th worst. Like all the good tight ends have bad matchups with the exception of Kittle, Kincaid, Hill, and Schultz. And so Laporta has the 5th best matchup out of tight ends you'd likely be starting.
There just aren't that many good tight ends. So, like, tight end numbers are weird. You have to be careful when you look at those numbers because they could have just played a lot of bad tight ends throughout the week, like the year, so they could have good numbers. Or on the flip side, you could play like Andrews, you know, Kittle, Kelsey. Like, you could have a string of those guys, and they'll inflate your numbers. So you have to be very careful with tight end numbers in general because there's not many good receiving tight ends. Like, that's the problem.
Well, yeah, and it also, like I said, it doesn't help. I'm sure the numbers, maybe the Chargers aren't as bad because they faced Kelsey. Who else they got in there? Nothing on Denver. Nothing on so it's Kelsey. But still, like I said, they are a better matchup in real life than they are in fantasy. Well, I guess they're mediocre either way, but I'm just betting on it's one of the better matchups for one of the better tight ends. So
you just roll them out each week,
Back to this game. 4th best matchup for Breece Hall, who I am firing up. 16th best matchup for Josh Jacobs, who I'm also firing up. I have Jacobs as 7. Breece Hall.
Whoa. I have Breece Hall really high.
I couldn't find him. You know why I can't find him?
Because he was super high.
RB1.
Holy smokes, 1? Oh,
RB1.
baby, I thought 2 was high for me. I was like, Jesus. So, like, interesting thing with Jacobs is his volume's elite, and he's starting to hit the regression we talk about with players. Like, this is what we talk about with Mixon or Rachaad White. Those guys are like, the volume's elite, chase it. This is what's happening with Jacobs. He gets elite usage and volume. Pierce loves him. He talks about him being a Raider. So, like, Josh Jacobs is like a mid-range RB1 for me the rest of the season. He's just a stud.
I moved him down to 4 This is one where I don't care what my rankings or my model says. He has to be moved behind. I just moved him behind McCaffrey, Kamara, Eckler. So he's 4.
I'll actually start him ahead of Kamara. Like Kamara, I do worry about a little bit just because they have Jamal Williams.
I only noticed it since every time I make an update, I hit publish and save on my Fantasy Pros rankings, and it must have just happened because once I changed that, I went to submit it. I'm now getting a notification. According to a Fantasy Pros, T. Higgins is officially out.
There we go. So start Tyler Boyd, folks. You can play him.
Boyd.
I'm actually gonna do that. I'm probably gonna start Tyler Boyd over James Cook in the league now.
Yeah. Moving on to the wide receivers here. 8th worst matchup for the Jets. Worst matchup for the Raiders. So the wide receiver situation is not great. We got a couple of good ones. So I'm still starting Devontae Adams as a high-end 2. I have him ranked as 14 right now. Garrett Wilson I have at 17. So I'm starting both of them as high-end 2s. Excuse me. High to mid-range 2s. Not starting anyone else in this one at the receiver position. Thoughts?
Yeah, I do worry about Jacoby Myers. This is the thing. Like with Aiden O'Connell, we saw it last week and we saw it in week 3. He's literally focusing on Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams saw a 29% target share last week. He had 13 targets in week 3. Like he's the focal point of that offense for the receiver. So unfortunately, like Jacoby just takes a hit. In particular, this matchup, like this is rough. The New York Jets have 2 of the best corners in the league. Like DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner are a problem. So like it limits Adams. And the same thing with Garrett Wilson. He's got Zach Wilson, his biggest issue. So that just sucks. You just got to play him as wide receiver 2s moving forward, as unfortunate as that sounds. But they do have wide receiver 1 upside. It's just not like they.
Tight end, 15th best matchup for the Raiders, 20th best for the Jets. I'm not really looking to start either of these. I'd like to stash Mayer. He's a mid-range to high-end tight end 2 for me. Conklin probably in the same range. They're both all right if you have to play them. I just, there's no safety here and relatively low upside. There's worse options. Kicker.
I don't trust either one of these guys.
No, I don't trust either of them, but it's tight end. So
yeah.
Kicker, 17th best matchup for the other Carlson, 20th best matchup for Zerline. I want no part of Zerline. Carlson, if you have to play him, I bet he cracks my top 12 just out of lack of decent options. He did not crack my top 12. Oh, he has. Okay. I wasn't sure. I know he's been playing terrible, and I wasn't sure if my projections had if I had finally decided I gave up on him. But yeah, he's down where you have Boswell. He's like 3rd from the bottom. So I've given up on Daniel Carlson as well and just decided to move on, apparently.
The Carlson brothers, sorry. It's just not happening.
7th best matchup for the Jets, DST. 11th best for the Raiders. I have no interest in playing the Raiders, despite who's at quarterback. You will be living on turnovers. I have the Jets as 10, and I plan on moving them up at some point. I think they're probably 6 or 7. Raiders are middle of the pack. They're 17 for me. That's just because it's Zach Wilson on the other side. I don't imagine you would ever have to start the Raiders, but if you have to start the Jets, you can do so confidently this week.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Here, I got to check my daughter.